What a glorious morning. Thank you, Omega and Kev and Luis and Mr. Leeds for showing us his ankles. Um, this is a wonderful Sunday, and I'm excited. Usually, Reverend Jeff starts us off at the beginning of the month, and I'm honored to be the first of our many ministers to join with you on this Sunday after 4th of July. And as the tradition has been started, and I think Reverend Savannah did it, just turn on your computers. I want to see those funny faces. And I want to see some of you in that red, white, and blue hangover. Uh, and if you're like me, I watched Hamilton, and then I heard all this bombing and firecrackers all night. So I was in like the one of the wars where, you know, the boats are shooting at each other. So my imagination was going crazy. So anyway, sending love, and so glad you decided to join us on this Sunday, July 5th. And I am just over the moon. And, well, first of all, I have to give props to Reverend Jeff. He always says at the end of a wonderful phrase, blessed be. So as I prepared for this talk, we are following again the Centers for Spiritual Living themes for the month. And this month is called Unchained Spirituality. And for the week here is spiritual freedom. So let me tell you, that word unchained sent a ripple effect to all the ministers that follow the theme. And what I want to do is thank them, number one, because it also it made you understand and go deep on what unchained means to you and to me. So I went right there. I knew exactly what unchained spirituality meant, and I wanted to make sure that I talked about that today, and especially on this weekend of freedom. As Robert said, you know, this is an opportunity for me to kind of stand in front and talk about my spiritual freedom that I was searching for, or continue to search for, and has, you know, I found in Centers for Spiritual Living. But you need to know a little background about it. And I'm so honored to share that. And that's one thing that I don't want to, at this time especially, is to step back. It's time to step forward and lead. And it's very interesting how all my talks the last few months has talked about leading from the heart. And then I think I talk about the path has been made for us. Come on, y'all, walk with me. This whole thing we're going through right now in this country, there's a reason. And it is time to get on board that train. And we'll talk about that a little. And when I say get on board, there's so many ways. But for Science of Mind, we know it works. And it's that oneness and those prayers. And thank you, Omega Ray, for helping me to remember that. And I love how, you know, we've come together, the music and the minister, and we didn't even talk. But I knew exactly that Kev and Omega is going to do exactly what is needed, and thank you. So to start out my conversation with other ministers about what's going on in the world today, I was asked to be a part of a Sunday evening Zoom event with one of my fellow ministers up in Seattle. And she had the brainstorm or the brain thought to pull together some ministers of color and some other ministers and practitioners to do sort of like a prayer vigil. And she gave me the topic of healing. And that didn't sit right with me. And not that it was a negative thing. I wanted to make sure I stopped feeling sorry for folks that are finally feeling it, and kind of show you that it's time for action. It's time to take that feeling and move forward with it. So I led with that conversation, and the treatment or the prayer that I was able to add to it came from that direction. And it is a wonderful thing when I talk about freedom. So I'll give you a little history on where the freedom in my life held me back with chains. And it's still part of my consciousness. And we learn here in Science of Mind about those layers and layers and layers of experience that we have to peel away to get to that truth. And for me and for a lot of folks, it's real. And those chains or that spiritual freedom or just freedom period is blocking anything that we're trying to see through all that. So my first question to you all, and as I ask myself, what does true spiritual freedom look like? Right? So most of us are very familiar for what it looks like and feels like to be in bondage, right? Whether it's spiritually, as in fear, stress, rejection, guilt, bitterness, or physically, as in diseases and disorder, we are all familiar with some form or another of bondage in our humanness, right? So you have to agree with me. And on that one. And as those of us who were brought up with the Bible, it taught us, right, that Jesus came to offer an opportunity for us to be freed from bondage and from the curse, as they called it, sin and death. And in the Bible, as God is speaking, if the Son therefore shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. And that comes from John 8:36. And right, it sounds simple. All you got to do is know. And again, sin doesn't mean you did something bad. It just means you missed the mark. So as I discovered, okay, well, you know, I have God within me, and I'm accepting that I should be free. Well, it didn't kind of work that way. Well, I'll speak for me. I did not feel free, you know, at all, basically, as I wondered why was that I was feeling like this, you know, no freedom for me in a lot of things that I did, especially with the religion that I was brought up in. And so what many of us is unfamiliar with is true freedom. And again, I'll speak for myself. And what does that even mean? What does it look like, you know, and what is it not? And I think is a key thing too. The word free in this scripture, as defined from the original Greek text, means unrestrained, to go to pleasure, right? As a citizen, not a slave, whether freeborn or set free, right? Free man or woman is at liberty, right? So that's that true freedom. If we are to walk in freedom, we need to understand who and what we are being freed from and who our deliverer is. Then we need to understand who we are in the state of being free. So that is a lot of pressure on each and every one of us, especially someone like myself. As I am going to share a little bit more about me, I'm a Black gay man, and I've grown up, or my family religion was Jehovah's Witnesses. And that was chained for me. It was bound, it was restrictive, it was limiting, it was confined, it was toxic. Where nearly everything I did and almost everything I was classified as a sin and punishable by not being able to be chosen to see my loved ones on the other side. And my mom passed away when I was 8. So that was used against me or used to motivate me or do their bidding or do the bidding of what was written so I can see my mother on the other side. Again, I felt restricted and did not see a way out until I knew I was going to go away from college. And I would separate myself from everyone around my hometown. Plus, my family that was still in it. But I had guilt. I was feeling like I got out and they didn't. And, you know, I carried that chain of my upbringing with me, and that was sort of heavy on my heart in everything I did. So just know that that was my first layer, that first layer of pressure that was held down on me. And it really guided a lot of stuff that I was and what I was looking for also. Um, so as I discovered science of mind, right? And this philosophy, we are taught to have unchained spirituality where all that I am as a divine incarnating of itself and freely, audaciously, and magnificently is celebrated, honored, and encouraged. That's this philosophy. And guess what? That's what I was looking for. So, but back to, I was never short, but little Tony, as I was becoming the man that I am today, it's nice to also remember that this teaching, and this is one of our declarations, that we believe the ultimate goal of life is to be complete freedom, emancipation from all discords of every nature, and that this goal sure to be attained by all, right? So we are always thinking and saying and knowing that truth for ourselves. But as I got to become a man in the world, those chains or those layers, you know, were put on me more and more. And it was a heavy burden to continue to be what I thought me. And I wanted to find that spiritual freedom because I thought that was also a way that's going to, you know, affect everything else. So I kind of knew that. So when I say the layers are changed, so as I was moving on with my career, I discovered, you know, basically that good old boy network and that glass ceiling, all those cliches you talk about or you hear about in the business world. And not that I let any of that stop me. I always had a consciousness of doing well, but I had a consciousness and a knowingness that I had to do better than. And no one really should have to have that fear that they always had to be on point, even more than their counterparts. And what I mean by that is that, yes, I was the only one everywhere I went. And when I say the only one, you know, the only black male buyer, for example, was one of the careers I had. And as I traveled around the country and the world, you know, again, I was it. So the number one, represent everybody and everything. But I couldn't screw up. It was no, there was nothing in my work life that I could screw up, because then I would be, oh, that was him. Oh, it's one of them, one of those. So I had that extra pressure on me everywhere and every part of my career, even and to now. It's still there. And that is another chain that was added into my life. On top of that, I went through puberty, right? And I discovered that I was different. And okay, so I moved away and I'm gonna go to the gay ghetto up in New York and find myself. And I thought, oh, great, I found that rainbow silver lining and I'm gonna be gay now. Well, if you think that was a bowl of cherries and whipped cream, it wasn't. I had a realization that being a man of color, I was a preference and not a choice. So that was something that opened my eyes up pretty big. It wasn't like I had it easy to become the gay man that I thought that I now finally have found. Again, another chain and something else I had to work and carry with plus the guilt of where I had come from. So again, how I carried myself and how I walked this world was always with and I have this image of, the Atlas carrying the world on his back, or a cross. Those were those conscious weights that was always on me, and I felt I was judged by that. And again, I'm sharing this, and I'll wrap it. I'll tie it up at the end. So what I see, and I'm, now that I've gotten older, I can see those same things in my own family, with my own nephew, nieces right behind me, and also with the men that I see around me. And I am, again, sometimes you just don't understand where that all comes from, and why can't you see the truth. So in this talk today, and also moving forward, I want to expand the conversation of, hopefully you'll get a little glimmer, or a little insight of how the folks that don't look like you are working, and what they're going through. And again, my story is my story, and I might have had some different opportunities and different choices that I made, but I still had that struggle, and it still goes on today. One other thing I want to add to all of this too is that as I came out in the 80s, then all of a sudden there was HIV. And I remember I'm like, oh my God, all of a sudden I'm gay, and now there's some disease out there. So again, it felt like somebody was against me, and that was, and just the horrible things people were saying, and that was a curse, and God's punishment. Again, all those things ring true, or brought up that old stuff, or those old chains that was holding me back. Again, I got through that. I'm still here, and one of the things that I wanted to share again is how I am teaching communities of color, where I work at the San Francisco AIDS Foundation, to understand, where this comes from. And I'm talking about HIV. And, 10 years ago when I first started, explaining, the safety reasons, and how you can avoid getting the virus. And if you do have the virus, how, staying on your meds and being undetectable. So what I did find in common with a lot of my people, and other people of color, and some that were not, is that they had misinformation, and they had a disconnect with themselves and the spirit within. And one of the ministers that I was on board with, and we were trying to talk to local ministers about going into churches to talk about HIV to the community. And some guy asked, where was God, when I was in that bus stop, and I caught HIV. And the minister said, yeah, God was with you, at that bus stop, and, you're okay to be there. But if you knew who you were and whose you were, it would have been the opportunity to be safer. And again, that's the perfect example of how, I am where I'm supposed to be, learning and teaching communities, and helping them discover who and whose they were. So back to my carrying chains, I wanted to read this quote from Ernest Holmes, and this talks about freedom, and it comes from the Science of Mind text on page 69, this big old book that I have, and the meaning of freedom. Freedom of will means the ability to do, say, and think as one wishes, to express life as one personally desires. To be able to think and dream of freedom would not be liberty. To imagine without the power to manifest that imagination would be to remain in a sort of a dream world which would never come as complete realization. This is not the world in which man lives at all. For man's world is one of self-expression, even though that expression appears at times to destroy him. And I love, again, this teaching and how it's helping me to release those chains that really held and not held me back, cripples me to a point. And back to what he said about will. We are given free will. That's something that separates us from animals or everyone else on this planet. We have that will, and that will is very important that you understand that you were all of it. It's available to everyone. So back to what I was talking about in my life. I should have known, that this was free will, or that I should have been taught, as a young Black man, that I had the opportunities and I had the will within me to do anything I wanted. And I did see that to a point. And, I had, like I said, the opportunities that were in front of me or different than some of my friends. But did I believe that? Did I really, really see that in the community around me? And I didn't. And especially when I left my cocoon in my town, I didn't feel that as I started to walk the world. So if I am feeling that, and a lot of you know me, and some of you don't, but hopefully you'll have a little more insight in my psyche and who I am, the man that I am. Um, a lot of people don't have this. So when you see anger and you see someone on TV, frustrated and breaking something, this is someone that has those chains in their life. And when you don't have that vision, as Ernest Holmes says, that imagination, you don't have that trust in your consciousness, you're like, the world is against me, and I'm trying to break out and break through. So just know that your opportunity is here, and this is where you come from, or you can come in, and just like me, I need action, and it goes to the point where you can figure out what part of action you want, but this is a time to help lift that and pray, as Omega said earlier today, and sang beautifully. This is our opportunity as science of mind practitioners, is to do what we do best, and that is see the truth in everyone around me, see the truth in that person that, and again, it's a soundbite on TV, so just be clear. That sells papers, is what the thought, and magazines. That was the old thought around that. Just know that, again, you have an opportunity to know the truth for everyone that's going through this, that's wanting to have a change. And here's the last thing I want you also to do is, when you see some of the folks, and I will bring up the police officer and those folks that broke through her house, the one woman's house, and shot her and her fiance. There's a consciousness, and I didn't see God in their eyes. There was something that didn't look right. And I think we all saw that. The world saw it. So they are the people, too, we need to pray for. And I remember my grandmother, talking about, no, you pray for the evil, you pray for the bad. Because, I had a lot of people who kept teasing me as a kid, calling me sissy, that, I used to, want to destroy them. And she said, no, you pray for them. You pray for their consciousness to know that God is with them. So this is, again, our opportunity to bless and pray for those folks too, along with the other folks that are out there wanting change. And change is a coming. In my lifetime, it's just amazing how much change has happened in my short, 21 years. We'll just say, we'll keep it at that. But think about it. a lot of the rules and things that we couldn't do it's less than 100 years ago that all of this was not possible. So really look at the opportunity to educate. And when I say educate, thank you, Chantel, for always showing up and giving us those opportunities to look and see. And this is what I mean about educate. Educate yourself for the truth. Share it with family or friends. And again, have the correct information so you can be that ally and you can be that support. You can be that bottom action. And it can come in the form of walking and talking at the same time, or supporting a march, financially, education again, be part of trainings, and especially with the local police or, your city hall, your schools. This is an opportunity for us to take the time to help this change come throughout the world. And again, I go back to, excuse me, where we're at in this time. We just went through excuse me, 4th of July like we've never done before in my life. But I couldn't look at the TV and see everybody partying and jumping around the pool and not social distancing. And the wave of the sickness is gonna come. So how do we continue to pray for the people who don't get it? And that's our job. That's our job as science of mind practitioners, is to pray for those who don't get it and those who don't. And when I say those who don't get it, again, it's those who are not clear on the God within. Because if you were clear on the God within, you know exactly what to do. And I think that's exactly what a lot of us are feeling as we go through this change together. And it's a coming. So moving on, I would like to tell you one last story. So one of the ministers on our listserv sent out an email, and he's like all excited. He wants to tape Black ministers and put it on his YouTube. And he's like, oh, I have thousands of followers, and I want this opportunity to have Black ministers speak and talk about what's going on. And at first I was not clear on what he really wanted, but my voice can be added to that, and it might not be the same prayer or conversation from or vantage point from other ministers, but it's from mine and it's my experience, and talking about that unchained spirituality that I've grown and learned from Science of Mind. Also, I wanted to leave you with this last visual and a quote from Nelson Mandela. And this just resonated with me when I was trying to find a visual, and I'm a visual person. These chains coming down this wall is so powerful to me. And again, as you see, some are broken, some are still looped. That's my life, and that's where I'm at. I'm still unlocking those shackles and those changes that I want to see in my life. And as you read the words, for to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way, can't see, live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. And that's what I mean when let's look at everyone and pray for everyone, because we are not in this alone. And I know every Black man or woman that's out there on the front line is understanding that and now seeing that. The last visual that I always take with me is how Martin Luther King walked across the Selma Bridge. I now understand that. And that is key to us moving forward. So let's go into prayer. So right now, as I, Reverend Tony Bradford, recognizes the one life, the one love, the one joy, the one blessing that I call Father, Mother, God. That love, that energy, the mind of God is mine that I'm using right here and right now. So as I stand in that truth, stand in that mind, as I just let it drench over me, and I am sweating with the love that God is. I am standing high on the mountain right here and right now. I am the voice of reason right here and right now. I am the voice of love right here and right now. I am showing my true self as I continue right here and right now to just peel and let that truth shine throughout my life. And as I know there's only one of us here, that life is your life. That life is the life of everyone outside of my walls here, in the parking lot, on the bridge, on in those parks right here now, on the streets, in the police station, in those homes that they think they have to protect with guns. I am standing proud and tall right here, right now. I am seeing God through myself. I am knowing God through myself. So as I stand in that special armor of God, I am forever grateful because I see the Spirit right here, right now. That truth, that energy, that love, that oneness is feeling good, y'all. So just walk with me, stand with me, know the truth. Because everything for me right here, right now, is the same for all of you at the sound of my voice. It is a wonderful thing that we, as spiritual leaders, and I'm talking about you all too, we stand in that truth and that knowingness. We are forever changed, and it's going to change again tomorrow. But right now and right here, it is a blessing. And I am riding that blessing. I am knowing it's true. I am speaking out loud. I am walking the talk. I am supporting the action, and I'm doing it my way. And I know it could be a small way, it could be a big way, but it's a way right here, right now, and it's good, and it's very good. So I am thankful for this knowingness. I'm thankful for this truth. Excuse me. And I'm thankful for each and every one of you showing up today, because your love is my love, is the love of the world. And I release this prayer to the activity of love and law, knowing it is good and very good and will not come back to me null and void. And then please help me seal this prayer into eternity by saying Ashe, Amen, and so it is. So, as I continue the thought and the love of prayers, I'm pulling up our OCSL prayer list, and I want to include our nonprofit for the month. It is called My Stuff Bags Foundation, and it provides new belongings, comfort, and hope to children rescued from abuse, neglect, and abandonment. So we are including them in this love and this prayer today, and we also are adding them to our affirmation that Robert led with us, especially for the children today. Our mother planet. What an opportunity here and now for us to see the change, see that as we did what we're supposed to do in this craziness, the air is cleaner. The water is cleaner. We can do it. And Mother Nature is showing us and showing out. I am forever grateful to be part of that stewardship. I'm blessing all those in service. And, it doesn't matter how you prepare. The gremlins inside your computer will take over. But what I know, it is all about God and the oneness. And it's all God. So whatever happened, it happened for a reason. It brought us together. It made us laugh. It shows that we're human, and it's a good thing. So I'm thankful for the whole crew that put this all together to make us sound, look good, and support us. So I am elated to just talk about how the love and the comfort of prayer has healed those in our community that were going through some challenges. Jonathan Hendricks and Taylor, Reverend Jerry and her brother, just knowing that they're whole, perfect, and complete, just the way they are, and just feeling the love that was sent to them was just amazing. So George is feeling good, and our friend and loved one Grady Nobles, and all those impacted by COVID-19. There's a second wave of coming, and we are just knowing that we are whole, perfect, and complete, and our bodies are fighting off all that is changing, all that is coming our way. So keep our community on top of working everything that your body needs to do to keep that virus away. Excuse me. Phyllis, Layla, and Vami Wallace, we are knowing that they are lifted and loved and taken care of. And for those who made their transition and they've moved on physically to a better place, but we know their energy and their special essence is still with us. So George Floyd and Ahmed Aubrey, Willie Mae McGill, the sister of Dottie Baker and family, Breonna Taylor, Maurice Gordon, Byron Williams, and our lovely, lovely, wonderful sister, Barbara Williams. Her son made his transition recently, and we are lifting and loving her. And just know, Barbara, we got you. So speak the word where you're at, whether it's out loud or in your mind. Invite someone that you know is going through something that needs to be included in the prayer. And remember, you don't have to be a practitioner to pray. Just know and know that you have God within, and you speak your word, and your powerful voice added to the prayer just sends good stuff around the world. So I give thanks for this and this opportunity to add that, and I am just on the moon. And so it is.